What's going on, everyone? I am back with yet another video. Now, the Shadowgrapher update dropped a lot of new things. One such thing was none other than Voruna Prime. And in this video, we're going to be covering pretty much everything you need to know about Voruna and Voruna Prime. Now, keep in mind, this is meant to be a beginner-friendly guide. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump into it. I hope you guys learned something new. Okay, so you've got Voruna or Voruna Prime. Nice work. But what do I actually need to know about her to make her work? Well, let's take a look at her stats real quick. And I'll break it down and go through it. So, Voruna has 455 health, 270 shield, 200 armor, and energy of 100 at max rank. She has a sprint speed of 0.95. So overall, she has reasonably good health, decent shield, and below average base energy, but that's perfectly fine. Now, if you're wondering where you can get Voruna, you can purchase her from the market for 325 plat. Or, you can go to Uvarium or Circulus on Lua and farm out her blueprints from there. But keep in mind, each piece is probably going to need your Lua Thrax Plasm, so keep an eye out for those. But wait, doesn't Verona have a prime? What's the difference between her and her prime? Well, just hold on. I'm getting to that, okay? So, the difference between Voruna Prime is typically speaking just either a stat comparison and an appearance change, right? So in this case, Voruna Prime has more armor, more energy, and a higher base sprint speed. Not to mention, I mean, those wonderful golden details. So, you got Voruna, or Voruna Prime. Nice work. Okay. But, how on earth does she work? Well, that's what I'm here to explain, right? Now, before we jump into her abilities, I want to point out a simple fact, right? Voruna has two types of abilities, right? She has a tap and hold ability, right? Which is basically her hold abilities are her passives, so keep that in mind, right? So her main passive, as we just said, basically says that Voruna can hold her abilities to call upon each wolf's passive effect, right? Now, the first ability, Shroud of Dinar. Shroud of Dinar basically coats you in a shroud of invisibility, right? But when you break that invisibility and you gain a kill, you will gain crit chance, crit damage, and status chance, right? Now, there are two main things that are going to affect this ability, that being strength and duration, right? So strength is going to increase the critical damage multiplier that you will gain, right? The speed, the status chance, and the crit chance, they are all fixed. They cannot be changed, right? Duration is going to increase the buff duration, and it's going to increase the ability duration as well, right? Now, efficiency is going to reduce the overall cost of the ability. But the hold passive of this ability makes it so Voruna gains increased parkour velocity. What does that mean? Well, it means that you can jump higher and further, essentially. Alright, second ability. Fangs of Raksh. I've probably butchered that name. If so, roast me in the comments. So, essentially, the way that this ability works is that you will launch yourself at a target, and then you will affect that target with 5 random status effects at max stacks, right? So 10 stacks per enemy, right? Now, when that enemy dies, what happens is those status effects are going to spread to every enemy within a specific radius, right? That being said, once again before, efficiency, that's going to reduce your initial cost, right? Range, on the other hand, right? Range is going to increase how far it takes for you to be able to launch yourself at a target, and it's going to increase how far the status effects will spread. So in this case, any enemy within 9 meters will gain the status effects, right? Now, the strength will affect the initial damage of the ability, right? More strength means more initial damage. Now, efficiency, as we said before, is going to reduce the overall cost of the ability, right? But duration, right? Duration does absolutely nothing, so we don't use duration on this one, right? Now, third ability. Before I jump into that, the hold version of this ability is status resistance, right? It says resistance, but it's more like immunity. Now, Lycat's hunt, right? The way that Lycat's hunt hunt works is this. You tap the ability, and any enemy that you kill with
check navigation.
Melee attacks will drop health orbs, right? But any enemy that you kill with your headshots, they're going to drop energy orbs, right? But any enemy that is affected by 5 or more different status effects will extend the duration by 5 seconds, right? So this is, by all intents and purposes, a duration-based ability. So, duration is going to increase how long the ability lasts for, and it's also going to increase the amount of time that it is extended for per kill. So, with 124% ability duration, we extend it by 6.2 seconds per kill, right? And efficiency, as I said before, right? Efficiency is going to reduce the initial cost of the ability. Now, the tap and hold version of this ability, grants Voruna increased heavy attack efficiency. Basically, what that means is whenever you heavy attack, your combo multiplier will not be completely depleted like on a traditional heavy attack. Now, the fourth and final ability, Voruna goes full furry, right? You tap the ability, you get on all fours, and you launch yourself at a target, dealing damage to them. But there's a catch. You can only do this a total of 5 times, right? So you have 5 attacks that you can do, right? Also, the attacks or kills will double Voruna's damage multiplier, right? So every kill, she gains a damage multiplier of 2 times. Just keep that one on 1, right? Now, the fourth and final passive ability is essentially you gain an extra life, which is quite nice. Now, if you're wondering where you can get the auger mods, right, because I know I've set them all throughout this ability, right, if you're wondering where you can pick these up from, go to Earth, go to Cetus, talk to Konzu, right? He's going to have a series of bounties that you can go and do, right? What you're looking for is the bounties that have the Vigilante set, the Gladiator set, and the Auger set. And essentially you can just run those till you get the mods that you want. And that pretty much just wraps up Voruna's abilities. So Voruna Prime only came out recently, which means she hasn't got a lot of augments. Fortunately, the ones that she does have are quite powerful. Now, the first one we're going to be covering is the Prey of Dinar augment. it's an augment for the first ability, which directly affects the second ability, right? So while using the invisibility, the enemy that you hit with this ability here, they take increased damage vulnerability, right? And that scales with strength. So the more strength you have, the higher the damage vulnerability is. Now, unfortunately, you cannot affect the spread radius nor the range of the augment. Sorry, and just to prove that, yeah, so you can't affect the spread radius of the augment, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is, right? But still, that is a flat 150% spread radius increase, which is nice. Now, the next one we're going to be working on, or going over, is going to be the Ulfrin's Endurance Augment. Now, the way that this augment works is every enemy that is killed within 20 meters of you by a slash status effect will recharge one of the 5 charges for the final ability. Now, its range can in fact be increased with range mods, as you can see. Now, we're going to wrap things up with a bit of a Steel Path showcase, so sit back, enjoy the show.
Each enemy is more powerful than before. Only with true mastery of the Tenno arsenal will you succeed.
The Orican Neural Sentry is attempting to purge you from this place. Stand by for life support. Sentient scouts. If they detect you, fighters will soon attack. The sentient has detected you. Fighters incoming. The longer you hold out, the deeper I can search. But if you need to leave, extraction is ready. Void signatures, but outside the corrupted. They are draining your life support, and fast. Eliminate them quickly.
They fought
Lasting